This Wednesday's program is another really good example of what I strive for. And what I mean by that is I'm completely, primarily interested in the journey of the audience through a program. And that involves a lot of sound elements. So specifically, the first piece on this program is for winds alone, specifically high winds. The second piece is a piano trio, completely different sound. And the final piece on the program is a string quintet, again, completely different sound. The other element in putting a program like this together is to try and contrast the time periods of the pieces so that each piece can really be isolated as its own cultural world and be appreciated for that without clashing against the other pieces. So to start with, we have a very unusual piece. I'm sure most people in the audience will have never heard it. A set of variations by Beethoven for the strange combination of two oboes and English horn. English horn is sort of the viola of the oboe family and actually has a range quite exactly of the viola. What this means in terms of sound also is very interesting because there's really no bass. There's no bottom to this piece. It's a charming, charming set of variations. Beethoven wrote this set of variations on a theme from Mozart's opera Don Giovanni, which had had its premiere just prior to this composition. The second piece on the program is very special to me. This is a piece by the great English composer who most of you don't know, named Frank Bridge. Frank Bridge seems to have been the kind of personality of a composer who was not interested in fame and fortune and therefore didn't really get that. He was most prominently remembered for one of his pupils, his star pupil, who is a composer by the name of Benjamin Britten. Britten actually had one of his first successes writing a piece for strings called Variations on a theme by Frank Bridge. Frank Bridge had an evolution in his composing, which was very interesting. He lived through the First World War and initially wrote kind of English pastoral, pretty music. And the First World War really transformed him as a person and therefore also as a composer. And he took a turn towards a much more contemporary, much more modern sound, but had an amazingly idiosyncratic personality. Most composers who we remember are remembered because of the fact that they sound unlike anything else and are identifiable as a strong personality in music. This trio by Frank Bridge is exactly that. It sounds like really nothing else that I know. It has its own harmony. It has its own sonorities. A lot of the writing is for very high strings and very high piano. It takes turns and goes down paths that are completely unexpected, but done with an absolute certainty and confidence in the personality, and is quite powerful and unusual. finish the program, I wanted to turn again to something less demanding. The Frank Bridge is quite demanding on the listener. It needs rapt attention. To finish, I went to two viola quintet by Felix Mendelssohn, which was written just after he wrote his violin concerto. The piece shows that quite a bit because the first violin is quite concerto-like, very leading in the voice. And Mendelssohn is charming, brilliant, listenable, slightly melancholy, but the kind of pleasurable and exciting listening that washes over you and will leave the audience in a good mood.